All right, so thanks everyone for joining us for so long. And if you have joined us midway, I hope this summary will help you to get an understanding of what we have went through for today for the US market outlook. All right, so let me just begin. All right, so beginning of this webinar, I actually went through on some of the volatility as well as the US Fed tapering being one of the key factors that you might look out for the second half of the year. And personally, I believe that the supply chain challenges will continue into 2022. And actually, even it was mentioned that the semiconductor supply chain restrictions might continue into 2023 as well. All right. And for opportunities, right, so we do see a lot of opportunities now that global economies are reopening with the vaccination progress. So that is some of the sectors that will benefit from the exports will also benefit, as well as the shifting cyclical plays that I mentioned. And we also look at the US government stimulus, which is the infrastructure side of things now. That's the key focus of the second half of the year going forward. All right, so I will not share too much on mine because mine is a very overview, but when you get the slides after doing the feedback form, you can see my sector views itself on the slides. All right, so then we went into the semiconductor industry. All right, so we actually went through like the IDM, fabless, foundry. All right, so there was all these were discussed, and the stocks that I mentioned on the right hand side is just examples of the various category on the left. Right, so it's good to understand which stage will benefit more. So right now, a lot of the supply chain limitations is on the foundry, which is the creation of or the manufacturing of the chips itself. So the fabless are the one that is trying to promote or increase their production, but yet the foundry is the one that's being limited based on the supply chain issues. All right. Okay. So next, give me a moment. Right. So for the sector outlook, right. So Terence did mention the foundry actually the growth of the semiconductor industry sector is actually expected to be 8.4% for the year, up from 5.1%. So it's actually ongoing growth even going forward with the 5G high-performing computing as well as the other type of mega trend like IoT going forward. So the key sector that is actually the growing segment, the subsector, will be the smaller chips, the 7nm, 5nm, and 3nm. That is mainly actually produced by TSMC as well as maybe Samsung or Intel going forward. Right. So the key highlight that he mentioned was that the demand is still outstripping the supply growth. So even with the ramp up in the supply capacity, the demand increase would, in the short term at least for the next 1 or 2 years, still be growing much faster than the supply. Right. So he also went through some of the counters that is mentioned. So like TSMC, right, being one of the market leaders for foundry. Then there is also Samsung Electronics, which is actually in a wider range of products, but they do still also have a foundry presence. All right. So then next we have the NVIDIA, Intel, AMD, and Qualcomm, all of which are chip makers. They are actually mainly fabless, other than the Intel trying to enter into the foundry space. Fabless meaning that they only just do the designing. They don't really create or manufacture their own chips usually, but they do own the IP and technology for the different technologies of the chips advancements. Right. So the ETF that he mentioned, not sure if you have stayed, the ticker codes are SOX, SMH, and XSD lah. So you can find them easier through these ticker codes. Right. Next, we also have the speaker from Global X, the Mr. J. Jacobs. So he mentioned about the new themes of the new normal economy. Right, so he actually mainly shared about how the pandemic has shifted from the stay-home economy and a reopening economy. So now you accelerated certain themes. The 4 themes he mentioned is actually on cannabis, change consumer habits, which is actually on the fintech due to the omni-channel shopping on like payment methods. Then you also have like the US infrastructure, right? Maybe also led by the infrastructure bill that might be passed based on what the government can get through the Congress, as well as the clean technology, right? So there's climate change initiative, there's renewable energy focus, as well as the energy efficiency technology that could also be invested. So I think I saw some questions asking on the ETF that is relevant. So the relevant global X ETF, right, by the company, of course, that represented by Mr. J. Jacobs. I share 3 here. So like they are the FINX, the fintech one, as well as the PAVE, which is the infrastructure. And also CTEC is the clean tech ETF relevant to the themes that is mentioned. All right, so you can take a look first before I move to the next slide. Right, so I'll just share some of the top holdings inside there. So in case investors want to actually look at the relevant counters, you can also look at the top holdings as well. Okay. Okay, next also we have do have the final speaker, Miss Jasmine Ng, right, who spoke on the Alliance Global Artificial Intelligence Fund, right? So mainly it's on the deep learning, machine learning, big data. All these are very technical terms, but the main idea is that the whole industry is supported by the digital transformation due to the current pandemic situation, which actually accelerated a whole pace of digitalization. Right, so you can use AI in health, home, IoT, farming, retail, and various industries. Right, so in their fund, they do have multiple disciplines, and I just mainly showcase again their performance and also the top holdings. So for top holdings, it's good to actually try and take a look at the sectors. So even though they are named the AI fund, but they do have other exposure into non-AI related, non-directly AI related counters, not the technology, but they are maybe utilizing AI technology in their operations. So maybe companies like Tesla and General Electric, they don't really have AI directly, but their products do utilize AI for part of the services that they carry. All right, so I hope this summary will be good to bring you through what we have went through for today.